When I was 15 years old, my mom packed a suitcase for me, sent me up to Tennessee to stay with my sister. She came back down to our house, packed up her belongings, and left my dad while he was away on business. At the time, they'd been married for about 25 years, and obviously her separation resulted in the two of them getting a divorce. And I've told that story or versions of that story numerous times, and I've received varying responses and feedback, but the most troubling response is, well, she toughed it out for 25 years, and then she did what was best for her. But is that really the truth? She indeed was miserable, and Dad was not always easy to live with, and they did always fight, but was that grounds for divorce? Was that really what was best for the kids? And was that really what was best for my parents? Good afternoon, and my name is Joseph Richardson. I'm here to talk to you about a Christian view of divorce and why it's a bad answer to the wrong problem. So to begin with, divorce rates are painfully high, and second divorce rates are even higher. Some studies have suggested the divorce rate is around 40 to 50%, meaning that 4 or 5 out of every 10 marriages end in divorce. So, one implication would be that till death do us part doesn't always mean until death do us part. And for better or for worse, sometimes just means for worse. So why is divorce so prevalent in our society? Well, marriage.com cites that infidelity, constant arguing, lack of communication, and unrealistic expectations are some of the leading causes for divorce, but I'm not sure that that's really the core of the issue. I would argue that divorce, at its core, is an individually centered decision. Now, I know that many of you feel compelled to immediately assume the worst case scenario as I'm saying this, and so I want to get something straight from the beginning. Some of you may be tempted to think, wait, so you're saying that if somebody is in an abusive relationship, they should just sit there and be abused? And for a Christian, you're not allowing them to be divorced? That's not what I'm saying. Nor is that what the larger Christian church is saying. In a specific situation like that, obviously safety is the most important factor, and a deliberate separation may be necessary to address the abuse. But the hope is always for the two parties to be reconciled. So thinking back to those reasons that we listed above, each and every one of those factors can be recovered from, to include adultery. Unfortunately, I can personally attest to that. I didn't say that it would be easy. So please don't confuse the point. I'm saying that sharing a life with one another is at times extremely difficult. And there will be seasons of challenge and struggle. But if personal satisfaction is the driving reason for divorce, and I think that it is, then I want to ask you this question. How long into your next relationship will it take for the race for perfection to grow weary? And for you to notice that the same problems from your previous relationship have just morphed into a new set of problems in a current relationship? How long before your first fight? How long before the new wears off? If your marriage just isn't working, then are you wagering that a new one will somehow work better all the time? Look, I think a large portion of Western society is so obsessed with individual satisfaction that it's near impossible to live out for better or for worse. What we really do is just implicitly tell each other, I love you as long as. These are conditions that no one is capable of living up to. And this leads me to my next point, that divorce is no more capable of providing permanent happiness than marriage is. So what am I saying? Am I saying that if you're unhappy in your marriage, you must stay unhappy? That you have to suffer through long seasons of struggle and adversity? That you can't do what's most satisfying to you? It's not precisely what I'm saying, at least not in those words. What I'm arguing is that in order for marriage to work, We must all stop collectively thinking that our spouse needs to be near perfect in order for me to be happy. If I'm defining my happiness and my spouse's behavior and emotions, she will eventually let me down. And living with those expectations is not fair to her. And if she thought the same from me, it's not fair to me. So if you're struggling with your marriage right now, I ask you another question. Are you wanting to leave primarily because you want to be satisfied by someone else? So let's look at this another way. Is it divorce that is the problem? Or are we all misunderstanding marriage together? So what is the definition of marriage? Looking again to our reasons above, I don't think that these are the real issues. I would argue that the real reason for divorce is a poor definition of marriage. Said another way, marriage is not this person makes me the happiest, so I'm willing to try and spend the rest of my life with him or her. Again, you may be tempted to think, well, why else would I get married? Is happiness not important? Yes, obviously happiness is important, but are you expecting the other person to be the sole source of your happiness? Because if you are, eventually you're going to be let down. Eventually you will be disappointed. And then what's the option? Divorce is a permanent solution to a temporary problem, but the root of the issue is the reasons for marriage. Are you at the center of the marriage universe? Or are you loving your spouse the way that they deserve to be loved, even when they don't deserve it? Because I promise you, you will eventually fall short of perfection, and you will need your spouse to love you the way that you want to be loved, even when you don't deserve it. So, one final thought before our time together is through. I've argued that the real reason for divorce is an improper definition of marriage. But what is marriage? What's a good definition? Well, marriage is about a team of two people joined together in covenant, facing life together. It is a relationship that invests itself in the unified happiness of the team and not the individual happiness of the team members. Think about it this way. If I'm pursuing my wife's happiness and she's pursuing mine, won't we both avoid some of the common pitfalls that we've discussed above? If her happiness is of greater value than mine is, then won't we able to overcome poor communication when it happens? Or won't the arguing be easier to get past? And won't forgiveness come quicker when we do fail to meet each other's expectations? Yes, adversity will absolutely occur, but it's about handling it as a team, not avoiding it as individuals. Divorce is not the answer because you're just trading one set of struggles for a new one. Thank you for your time, and I hope that you'll reconsider the way that we all define marriage.